Former Athlete Society, what's going on? It is Adam here, and today I am diving in to several accountability topics and topics that every single former college athlete eventually runs into. At some point in time, you run into these. Now, we're going to talk about something that's so important, and it's the accountability gap. And that's what today's call is all about, accountability. That space between who we used to be when sport was structured around our entire lives and who we are now trying to become just the best version of ourselves. And that everything, everything that we decide about our health, our performance, and life optimization, you know what? It falls on us. So if you're listening right now, you already know the truth. Transitioning out of college athletics is one of the hardest identity shifts that college athletes can go through, right? It's an identity shift that adults can go through, certainly, right? We've all navigated it before, but for a lot of 18 to 22-year-olds to mid 20s, right, it's challenging. Not because we don't have the work ethic, not because we don't care, but because for the first time in our lives, in your life, that structure that once held everything together, yeah, guess what? It's gone, right? And nobody told us how to rebuild it. So today isn't about motivation. I'm not going to give a glaring locker room speech today. It's not about hype. It's about giving you 5 practical, repeatable accountability systems that you can use every single day to regain momentum, to rebuild consistency, and start operating like the competitor that you still are, even if your life looks completely different now. So, we're going to break down things as simple as the 20-minute rule, right? That identity drift, something I call the silent load principle, and the nighttime reset, right? We might even get into discussing what I call a micronutrition anchor today, right? 5 pillars, 5 practical takeaways, and something to maybe just regain some control in your day and get back to feeling like your old self again. So, if that sounds good, let's get into it because we got a great show for us today. Topic number one. But before I jump into what I call the 20-minute rule, I want to set the scene with this. If you have never followed anything that we've done here at the Former Athlete Society, this is my invitation to you right now, right? I would love for you to become part of what we do here, right? And it's as simple as just liking, subscribing, smashing that notification bell, and helping the algorithm get this information out to the masses. So if that sounds like you, I invite you to do that. But today, 20-minute rule. The first system I want to build today is something I call the 20-minute rule. And if you've been struggling with training consistency, especially after stepping into full-time professional life, this might be the most important mindset shift that you can adapt all year. Because here's the reality, really. When you were a college athlete, your entire day was built around training. Your class schedule revolved around practice. Your meals were timed around lifts. Your recovery windows were planned. You had coaches, athletic trainers, academic advisors, schedules, alerts, teammates, teamworks, an entire ecosystem designed to keep you accountable. Guess what now? It's just you. It's just you, your calendar, and your life. Your job, your commute, your bills, your inbox, your deadlines, your relationships, your stress. And somewhere buried in all of that is the version of you that used to train 2 to 3, sometimes maybe upwards to 4 hours a day. Isn't that crazy? That 20-minute rule exists to bridge precisely this gap. Now, the 20-minute rule is as followed. Every single day, no matter how busy you are, you commit to 20 minutes of intentional self-development. It's that simple. It's that simple. So, could be training, could be movement, could be journaling, could be movement prep, could be stretching, could be as simple as mobility. Anything that keeps your athletic identity alive and active. 20 minutes is the threshold, right? Not because it's magical, but because it is small enough to execute on even the most chaotic chapter of your life, yet meaningful enough to create real momentum, both physiologically and psychological momentum. And so here's why this is so important for former athletes. Most of us, we sabotage our own consistency because we compare every workout to our old college standard. If I don't have time for a full 60-minute, 80-minute, 90-minute lift, I'll just do it tomorrow. If I can't train the way I used to back in college, what's the point, right? That wasn't even a real workout. 20 minutes, who does that? The This sort of idea of perfection or nothing mindset is the death of post-sport life. right? That's where consistency goes to die. The 20-minute rule is an antidote for that. It lets you win today, even when life is heavy. It helps you stack these micro wins that rebuild your confidence along the way. And most importantly, it reintroduces the daily rhythm that you once thrived in for years. So 20 minutes a day, 7 days a week, no negotiations, no excuses, no comparing to the old version of yourself, just the commitment to stay in motion. Because here's the reality: the athlete you were didn't disappear, they just need a new system. So, if that sounds like you, thank you for joining us. Number one, I am looking at a couple things on my screen because we have our accountability call. And on this accountability call, I want to make sure that I am giving you exactly what you need to be successful, right? I have a couple notes here on my screen that I want to make sure that I tackle. And I want to tackle this sort of topic number two for us today. And that's what I call the identity drift. Now, before I do, before I do, if you are loving this information right there in front of my face, right, I invite you once again, as easy as this, right? Follow our YouTube channel. We're building something special here, and I want you to be a part of it, right? So subscribe to this YouTube channel, our Former Athlete Society, everything that we're doing here at Adam Ringler on YouTube. Behind the scenes access to strength and conditioning, the blueprint, which is our life and fitness and health optimization platform, and then obviously the Former Athlete Society. That said, let's continue on, right? If you feel like you've been stuck or inconsistent, not like yourself lately, you're not imagining that. And you're not weak for actually feeling it and acknowledging that. Every single former athlete goes through it. It's something I call the identity drift. And in the next section, we're going to talk about why it happens, why it feels so uncomfortable, and what you can actually do to pull yourself back into alignment. So, that sounds like something that you're interested in. Let's get into this next topic. I freaking love this. Now, the identity drift. So let's talk about why this happens. Almost every single former college athlete experiences it, but very few can actually name it. If you've been out of sport for a few months, a full year perhaps, or maybe even several years, if you feel yourself slipping away from the person that you used to be, this is why. When you were playing in college, your identity wasn't just an athlete. It was one of which was a competitor, a teammate, disciplined, structured, reliable, driven, all of those things. Those weren't words to you. Those are your ethos of what you lived up to every single day. Those were baked into the daily environment around you. They were reinforced constantly by coaches, by teammates, by your schedule, by expectations, by the culture of the locker room. You didn't wake up and just choose discipline. You woke up in a system that demanded it. But the moment that system disappears, call it graduation, injury, roster cuts, career pivots, adulthood, whatever it might be, there's the silent demotion of everything that used to define who you were. No more head coach setting expectations. No more teammates pulling you forward. No more practice schedules building your day. No more lists that forced consistency. No more game film that shaped your mindset. Hell, no more season to train for. No more measurable performance identity, force plate numbers, workload monitoring, etc. Here's the part that nobody warns you about: your habits change long before your identity changes, or updates rather. If you still see yourself as the disciplined competitor, but your daily actions don't reinforce it, you will believe that you're the person who trains hard, but you don't have the structure to prove it. So, you still think of yourself as reliable and consistent and a competitor, but your schedule has no anchors anymore. That mismatch between who you think you are and what your day realistically looks like, that's the identity drift. This is why college and former athletes feel shame even when nothing is wrong. It's why everyday tasks can sometimes feel heavier. It's why motivation feels inconsistent. It's why training suddenly takes mental effort instead of actually being automatic like it used to be. Identity drift isn't a lack of discipline. What it is it's a lack of structure. You didn't lose who you were, you lost the environment that kept that version of you active. So, here's the mindset shift that I want us to start thinking about. Former athletes don't need motivation. What they need is a replacement system. If your actions feel scattered and you keep sort of falling off of the routine, or you feel like you're chasing the old version of yourself, but you never quite catch up, it's because your identity no longer has a home. The solution isn't just lift harder, It's not, I need to get serious about my training. It's not forcing motivation. It's not watching YouTube clips that get you hyped up. It's not any of those things. What it is restructuring your daily activities and your anchors. Structure creates behavior, and behavior comes in underneath it and reinforces your identity. And that identity, yeah, fuels momentum. And so when you rebuild structure again, even small structure, the athlete inside you reactivates. And that's why the 20-minute rule works so well, right? That's why simple nighttime routines matter. That's why micronutrition anchors stabilize your day. These systems don't just keep you organized, they restore your performance identity. So if you're in the season of drifting, understand this one thing: you're not failing, you're not broken, and you're not behind. What you are is transitioning. And you're learning to build an identity from the inside out rather than relying on the environment around you. And that's what I call adulthood. And that's the new arena that you are now competing in. So, if you've made it this far in our video, a couple different things that I just want to share. Number one, a lot of times people end up asking me this one thing: how do I find out more about the Former Athlete Society or about what you do as a strength and conditioning coach? And it's right here on the screen. This is my Instagram. I would love for you to head over right here on the screen and give me a follow. I share behind the scenes access to everything in college sports, in athletics, in strength and conditioning, in the industry. And I want to share it with you. So if you're interested in any of this that I've shared thus far, this is my invitation. Head over there, Adam Ringler. I'm at Instagram, I'm at TikTok, I'm at Blue Sky, I'm at X. I'm everywhere, y'all. So would love for you to join over there. Now, I do want to transition, right? We've talked about that identity drift. We need to talk about one more: hidden obstacle. And this is something that former athletes experience every single day, but they rarely ever acknowledge it. And it's the reason that you feel drained after your workday. It's the reason that training in a weight room or a commercial gym feels heavier than it should. And it's the reason your recovery doesn't hit like it used to. And I call this the silent load principle. And once you understand it, once you're aware of it, once you observe it, everything about your performance outside of your sport starts to make sense. So let's actually move in to topic number 3 today on our Former Athlete Society accountability call: the silent load principle. Right. And let's slow this down for a second and kind of talk honestly about something that maybe nobody teaches former athletes. And once they leave sport, and I promise you this: once it starts clicking, you'll stop beating yourself up for things that you should have never blamed on yourself, or certainly blamed on discipline in the first place. Right? We need to talk about this silent load principle, because here is what happens. Once we were in college athletics, the only load that we maybe ever paid attention to was our training load: practice volume, lifting volume, conditioning sessions, jump counts, sprint reps, all of those things, right? I'm about ready to spend the next 4 hours load monitoring our athletes. Trust me, I know external load. And we measure workload the same way that athletes measure workload, right? By what happens in the weight room, or what happens in the court, or what happens in the field, or what happens anywhere else in the competitive field. But when you're transitioning into real life, when you step into adulthood for the first time, when your jobs and your commute and your responsibilities, everything exists there, there's a whole new category of load that nobody maybe has prepared you for. And yet it hits harder than maybe any German volume training or squat session that you've ever done. It's the silent load. And it's the stress that you carry that doesn't produce soreness, doesn't show up on a GPS report, it doesn't get logged into a wellness questionnaire, but it drains you the same. It's the deadlines, it's the commute, it's the financial stress, it's the pressure to perform at work, the relationships you're trying to maintain, the loneliness that you don't ever talk about, the career uncertainty that you might have, the constant notifications on your phones, right? The late night emails. It's the decision fatigue. It's the, what am I doing with my life at 27 years old? Right? I'm not 27, I'm 40, but you get the idea. This is load. This is stress. This is real life stuff. And it has an impact on your performance just as much as physical training ever did. But here's the kicker: athletes rarely adjust their expectations when life starts adding load from every direction. You think that you can still train the way you did back in college because you still identify as an athlete. You expect the same volume, the same intensity, the same consistency, the same recovery. But the lifestyle that used to support that level of training, it's gone. And in college, you had fueling windows built into your day. You had athletic trainers monitoring your recovery. You had coaches managing volumes. You had teammates who were pushing you. You had built in downtime between classes. You had access to dietitians. You had sleep blocks that were somewhat predictable. So your load was high, but everything around you was designed to support that load. Now, now you're working 9 hours, you're sitting in meetings, you're grabbing food when you can, you're sleeping less, you're managing bills, right? You're dealing with stress your coaches never even knew existed. And then you blame yourself. You blame yourself for not getting the same lift in that you used to crush at 6 a.m. That's not a discipline problem. That's a load mismatch. The silent load principle simply says this: life stress steals from your training capacity. And training, yeah, it must adapt and adjust to match the training load of your lifestyle. Not the load that you wish you had, not the load that you used to have, the load that you actually have right now. Because here's the truth: former athletes, they don't burn out because they stop training. They burn out because they try to train like nothing else in their life has changed, but everything has changed. So let me give you a real example. If you had a high stress week at work, if your boss dumps extra load on you at the 11th hour, if you're traveling, if you're dealing with family stress or issues, you might not feel physically tired. But I can tell you this: your recovery is already compromised before you ever even step foot into a gym. And so when you do hit the gym with the expectations that you had, right, to lift the same way that you did back in college, you crash out. Not because you're weak, but because your recovery tank is already half empty. Now, former athletes get frustrated because they think, I should be tougher than this. I used to crush workouts like this. I'm losing my edge. I'm getting softer. Oh no. No, you're carrying that invisible weight all day long. Nobody taught you how to count it. And that is silent load. Once you acknowledge it, something powerful starts to happen. You start adjusting your training the same way a smart strength conditioning coach would adjust training volume during midterms or finals. You don't panic. You don't quit. You don't shame yourself. You simply adjust. That's the shift. That's the new skill set that you need in this chapter of your life. Because training in adulthood isn't about max volume, it's about sustainable volume. It's about using training as a way to support your life, not compete with it. And here's the beautiful part: when former athletes stop fighting their silent load and start working with it, consistency skyrockets. Why? Because they finally stop treating life stress as a personal failure. And when they start treating it like what it actually is, it's load management. And once you start acknowledging the silent load, you can reduce training intensity without guilt. You can shorten your sessions without losing your identity. You can increase recovery practices because they actually matter now. You build in low intensity days to maybe stabilize your week. You train smart instead of always training hard just to feel like an athlete again. And when you respect that silent load, you stop burning out. You stop starting over every 90 days. You can start having those long stretches where you don't lose all of your momentum. You start building sustainable rhythm and consistency in your training. That's stable. That's repeatable rhythm. That is what makes consistency possible again for former athletes. So I do want to transition, right? I got a new topic. We're on topic number 4. But before we do, a couple of things real quick. If you have just stumbled on these videos, and listen, quite frankly, our analytics say that. They say that almost 96% of those that are watching our videos are first time watchers, which is awesome, right? That means that you probably don't know who I am, right? And you don't know what I am about. And if that is true, and if that is you right now, then let me do a couple of different things. I'm Adam Ringler. I'm a strength and conditioning coach at the P4 level, right? And I've been one for almost 20 years. And I say that because I talk about all things strength and conditioning, sports science, life optimization, and bridging the gap between your collegiate days and your professional days. And if you're interested in this type of information, I have a whole website dedicated to it. And it's right here on the screen. It's adamringler.com. My first name right there, my last name right here.com. It's that simple. You can head over there. You can read all of the information I have, the articles, the free articles, the blueprint articles, the Former Athlete Society you can join. It's a community I built to bridge that gap between your collegiate days and your professional ones. So we've identified the silent load you're carrying every single day. We've talked about it, right? Being one of the, talked about some strategies, right? To take back control. Your day starts the night before. In college, structure at night wasn't optimal. Team rules, right? They were probably dictated when lights are off, right? When room checks happen because you got early lifts, or maybe you had curfews on road trips, you had late practices, study hall hours. There was always built in boundaries that shaped your routine. But what happens when sport ends? Your nighttime, that routine that once was, it can become chaos. And that chaos is where most former athletes lose the next day before it even starts. So, our next topic is something I call the nighttime reset. It's simple, it's repeatable, friction removing routine that makes tomorrow feel winnable the moment you wake up. So, how about we get into it, right? Let's break it down. Part number 4, right? This is our topic. And I want you to think back for a second. Think back to all those nights back during your college playing days. They weren't always perfect, but what they were structured. Maybe you had study hall. Sure, yeah, that's fine. Maybe you had travel. Maybe you had a late practice or an early morning lift or something. But there was always some boundary, some rhythm, some built in cue that shaped what your night had to look like. Not what you wanted it to look like, but what it had to look like. You didn't have to invent structure, it was just there. It was always there. And because it was always there, you woke up with momentum. You woke up not feeling behind, but prepared. You woke up with a sense of what was coming up, even if it was a hard training day or a tough class schedule. Now, fast forward, you're on your own. There's no team meetings, there's no early weights, there's no coach texting you, there's no practice block. Suddenly your nights can become like the Wild West, open ended, unstructured, unpredictable. And here's the quiet truth that almost most former athletes, they don't even notice it until it smacks them in the face. You don't lose consistency in the morning, you lose it the night before. And that's why the nighttime reset matters. It's not complicated. It's not a 40-minute sleep hygiene routine that you saw on TikTok or uh, Andrew Huberman recommended. It's not a candlelit journaling session or a 12-step wind down process. No, it's none of those things. The nighttime reset is the simplest possible way to set up tomorrow so you wake up with clarity instead of chaos. So let's walk through what it actually in real life, what it looks like every night, and I mean literally every night, you take 3 to 5 minutes to just set up tomorrow for success. Not perfection, not a full plan, just success. And it might be that you have to put your gym clothes in a visible spot, right, on your kitchen table. So your first decision when you wake up isn't, where's my gym clothes? Where's my shirt? It might be prepping water and electrolytes and putting your bottle at the door. It might be setting 2 calendar cues that remind you to fuel properly or take a break to breathe. It might be a 15-second glance at tomorrow's schedule just to mentally get ahead of it. It might be prepping coffee in advance. It might be writing one sentence in a journal that says, tomorrow morning, dot, 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 right? Minimize your friction and keep it simple. Because here's what actually just destroys consistency in former athletes. It's not laziness, it's that friction. It's waking up without a plan. It's your bag isn't packed, your brain is foggy, your schedule feels overwhelming. You're mentally already 2 steps behind before you even brush your teeth. And by the time that you think about training, your stress is already building, your day has already dictated your behavior. You've lost momentum before you even had a chance to get it. And we've all been there. And this is why what we're talking about here in the Former Athlete Society matters. This is why the nighttime reset is the adult version of what college athletics gave you for free, because it recreates predictability, it builds rhythm, it removes decision fatigue, it stops you from just winging it and then feeling bad the day afterwards when it gets away from you. The nighttime reset is how you take back ownership. So let me give you a small example of how a former athlete that I used to work with who played Division I basketball was struggling to stay consistent with morning training. Now, she told me that I wake up and my brain feels scattered from the second that I sit out of bed. I'd be searching for clothes, trying to decide whether to go to the gym or to work first or check email or make breakfast. I was all over the place. She was already behind because her mental clutter. Her problem wasn't motivation, it was friction. So we built a nighttime reset for her. Simple as that. Took 4 minutes. Clothes laid out, gym bag packed, water ready, one sentence written about tomorrow, alarm placed across the room. She had to wake up and actually go over and turn her alarm off, not just her iPhone. And within a week, she told me, I can't believe how easy my mornings feel now. Not because she became more quote unquote disciplined. She just stopped sabotaging herself with last minute decisions. The nighttime reset gives you control before your day begins and before your day runs wild, right? That is so critical to the success in your day. I do want to move on because we got one more topic to discuss today, and that is as simple as the micronutrient anchor. Oh, what is this? What is the micronutrient anchor? Well, I'll tell you what it is. But before I do, I need to invite you to come on a journey with me. And that journey is as simple as this. If you have yet to follow me at Instagram at Adam Ringler, then again, this is my invitation for you to do it. It's super simple to do. It's right there on the screen at Adam Ringler. I would love for you to give me a follow and share, maybe DM me. Let me know what you're taking away from these accountability calls here at the Former Athlete Society. Right. Now, we've talked about rebuilding your evenings, giving your mornings a fighting chance. We need to talk about another area where a lot of athletes struggle. And this is about rebuilding your momentum, right? So I figured this will bring us home. Now, for a lot of us, we're trying to rebuild momentum in our professional lives and after our athletic careers are over. We're really talking about rediscovering that internal cadence that used to be automatic. We're talking about finding a rhythm again, not the rhythm someone else defined for us, not the schedule a coach handed us, not the schedule a program dictated, our own rhythm, our own cadence, our forward pull. And for a lot of former athletes, that feels like the hardest part because the rhythm was always built in for us. We didn't have to manufacture it, we lived inside of it. The environment forced it, the culture reinforced it, the identity rewarded it. Now, now the responsibility for that rhythm sits squarely on our own shoulders. So, what are we going to do about it? This is one of the biggest separators between former athletes who thrive and former athletes who stall. So let's break down how we can rebuild momentum the right way, the sustainable way, the way that aligns with the long term identity, not just our short term emotions. So, how do we use momentum that starts building micro wins? So, what I mean by that is that we came from environments where everything was measured in big chunks, big lifts, big PRs, big practices, big games, big consequences. And because of that, a lot of us developed an unconscious bias towards only valuing big wins. We think progress needs to look dramatic to count. No, it doesn't. But life after sport is built almost entirely on micro wins. So, what is a micro win? It's sending one email. It's clearing up a part of our apartment or our home. It's reading 5 pages in a book that you wanted to read. It's applying to one job that you need to. It's journaling for 5 minutes. It's hitting one small micro workout. They don't feel victorious and the biggest championship wins, right? But they are so valuable. And yeah, there's no coach saying, good job, no teammates giving head nods, no high fives, no staff tracking your output, none of that. But these micro wins are the bricks, and they're building the path towards where you want to go. They're the actual raw material of momentum because momentum isn't about speed, it's about proof of direction. And when we stack 3 or 4 of these micro wins for a month straight, that's where former athletes start waking up feeling like themselves again. And I want you to feel like yourself again. So I think that's going to wrap up our accountability call today here at the Former Athlete Society. I want to just thank you. Thank you for tuning in, but more importantly, tuning in for yourself, giving yourself a chance to grow, to get better, to improve, to optimize your post collegiate athletic lifestyle. And if you want more of this, then I want you to go over to adamringler.com and sign up for the Former Athlete Society. It's that simple. This is where I share all of this information. You can join our community. You can become part of our Former Athlete Society, get access to our one-on-one calls, our accountability calls, our Q&A calls, our master classes. You get access to me. You get access to our free training program delivered through Bridge Athletic, the same app I use for all of our college athletes here. I want you to do that, right? But more importantly, I want you to apply one of these 5 strategies in the next 7 days. I'm going to have another accountability call here soon, or another Q&A call soon. I want you to take away some lessons and actually apply them. Because if we don't apply them, then everything I've shared right now is just information. The difference between doers and former collegiate athletes and those that have success are actually applying the information, not just retaining it. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. As always, I want you to stay strong. I want you to stay safe, but I also want you to be the best version of yourself. Until the next call, I appreciate you. Stay strong, stay in the fight. Let's keep working.